Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. So it is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. And we are live. This is our post-presidential debate recap and fact check. This was the craziest presidential debate I've ever seen or heard of. Okay, I've never seen anything like this. This is worse than I thought it was going to be. I knew Trump was going to show his ass because the latest poll came out. The poll came out on Monday. Washington Post or Sunday, Washington Post ABC News poll. He was behind 10 points. Another poll came out today. He's behind like about 9 points, 8 or 9 points nationwide. So I knew Trump was going to show his ass, but I didn't know it's this bad. This fool is crazy. Okay, I'm telling you right now, this fool, hashtag your ass gotta go. This fool cannot get another term in office. I'm telling you right now. Everybody share this broadcast. We're going to do some fact checking. We're going to break some stuff down. Hopefully I won't be here long, but who knows? Okay, I took a 5-hour energy. So we'll see what happens. Hashtag, this motherfucker's crazy. I'm telling you. If you watch me in 2016, I was doing nationally syndicated radio 5 days a week. I warned you about this fool in 2016. This motherfucker's crazy. All right. And we just saw it displayed. So everybody share this broadcast. If you like this type of information, also, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and paypal.me / the AHN show through PayPal. All right. So we're going to look at fact checking from Washington Post, because I was posting some live fact checks. We'll look at fact checking from the Washington Post and also NBC News. Okay. First thing I want to do, everybody follow me on my Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and follow me on YouTube, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. I did a post dealing with the federal judges. Okay. It came up dealing with the federal judges, and the statement was made there were 128 federal judges. There were 128 openings on the federal bench. I think they said 128 on the federal bench when Trump came in office, right? And I did a post that talked about how in the last 2 years of President Obama's term, you had his federal judges that were blocked by Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate, which is true. I said there were 128 openings on the federal bench when Trump came in because Obama's nominations were blocked. All right. December 13th, 2019, right around December 13th, 2019, Moscow, Mitch McConnell he was interviewed by Sean Hannity on Fox News. Okay. And Mitch McConnell bragged about blocking President Obama's nominations for in the last 2 years. Okay. A lot of people don't understand how this works. Federal judges, that is a lifetime appointment. Okay. The nominations, the president nominates federal judges. The Senate does the confirmation. Okay, I want you to hear this clip here.
Let's talk about the issue has come up. Let's say somebody were to retire at the end of this year, leading into the summer. You have been very clear. If the president appointed somebody, you would follow through on that nomination.
Absolutely. We definitely would do that. And this paperback that we were just talking about, the president's foreword is about judges. My afterword catches up what's happened during the Trump administration on judges, because my memoir came out 3 years ago before the president was elected. What we've done here, the president and I together with this paperback that you've shown on the screen, is to talk about how the Judge Project came about, how it went forward. If you were to recall, Sean, the most important decision I've made in my entire political career was not to fill the Supreme Court vacancy when Justice Scalia passed away. That was the beginning. And now we've got an exclamation point here after 3 years that we thought the public would be interested in reading about. And that's why the president and I collaborated on this paperback.
I was shocked that former President Obama left so many vacancies and didn't try to fill those positions.
I'll tell you why. I was in charge of the of what we did the last 2 years of the Obama administration.
I will give you full credit for that. And by the way, take a bow. All right, that was a good line.
So here is Sean Hannity with Senator Moscow Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, who's up for re-election November 3rd, 2020. His ass needs to be voted out of office. This is from December 13th, 2019, yahoonews.com. Mitch McConnell brags about blocking Obama for 2 years, then laughs about it. Republicans work tooth and nail to maintain control of the U.S. Senate. See, let me back up for a minute. We need to read the U.S. Constitution because we don't understand this shit. This is part of the problem, okay? This is part of the problem. We don't understand how this stuff works, okay? Go to loc.gov, Library of Congress website. Go to archives.gov, National Archives. Read the U.S. Constitution. You can read it there free, okay? Trump has gotten 216 federal judges confirmed in the first 3.5 years. How do we know? Let's look at this article here from Newsweek.com. I'm going to post a link here to all these articles. Go read this stuff, okay? Instead of all this superfluous who slept with who and Jada got mad about what Gail said about Kobe and Snoop and all this bullshit. This is stuff we should be studying because this impacts every aspect of our lives. All right. I'm going to post a link here to this article. This is from Newsweek.com. Trump has appointed 216 new federal judges, and it could be 230 by election day. Trump has appointed 216 new federal judges, and it could be 230 by election day. Now, this is from September 18th, 2020. September 18th, 2020. All right. If this is your first time watching me, usually I don't cuss this much. I'm just pissed off because this motherfucker's crazy. I'm telling you. And he refused to denounce white supremacy. Okay. Because he wants the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys and these other white supremacist organizations. He wants them to go to the polls to do poll watching for him, to try to suppress the vote. Okay. This is what this is about. All right. So since the start of his presidency, Donald Trump has appointed at least 216 federal judges to U.S. federal courts, and it could be 230 by election day. The Republican-led Senate has helped Trump appoint federal judges at a historic rate. And just this past week, 6 new judges nominated by Trump were confirmed by the Senate. Among the 6 judges, 3 filled vacancies in Los Angeles courts, 1 filled a vacancy in San Diego, and 2 were appointed to courts in the Southern District of Illinois. Now, read the rest of this article. This is from September 18th, 2020. This is from Newsweek.com, September 18th, 2020, from Newsweek.com. And we're going to post this link here on the thread of the broadcast. I'm going to give you a bunch of articles. Make sure you read this stuff. Okay, this is critical. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. This is what politics is. So if you're not familiar with me, I'm Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. Been doing radio 10 years. We do the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. right here on Facebook and YouTube, and also broadcast on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. I'm a radio talk show host here in Detroit also. All right. Now, Republicans work tooth and nail to maintain the U.S. Senate, to gain control of the U.S. Senate in 2014 and keep control of the Senate because they want to get as many ultra-conservative, largely white male judges, very young white male judges confirmed to the federal courts. All right. Why is this? This all has to do with the year 2043. 2043 is the year that is predicted, that the Census Bureau and the demographers are predicting that white people will no longer have a majority population in this country. Right now, white people are about 63% of the U.S. Population. Okay. So because they see this is coming, because they realize they're not going to win the fight with the population fight, they want to control the courts, the federal courts and the U.S. Supreme Court for the next 25, 30, 40 years. That's what all this is about. That's what this fight is about. Okay. So they say, well, look, you may have a larger population, okay, non-white people, but we're going to control the federal courts. All right. So then that way we control federal law for the next 25, 30, 35, 40 years. That's what this fight is about. Now, what people don't understand is that you need control of the federal courts to rule on things like affirmative action, rule on things like the Affordable Health Care Act, federal courts and U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. If you have the district federal courts, then you have the Federal Appeals Court, then you have the U.S. Supreme Court, highest court in the land. Go to justice.gov. Justice.gov is the official website of the Department of Justice. Go to justice.gov, which is the official website of the Department of Justice, and and there they have a hierarchy chart of the federal courts, and they explain the whole federal court system to you. In 2016, I was doing nationally syndicated radio 5 days a week in 2016 for the leading up to the presidential election, and I saw about 100 campaign speeches that Donald Trump did. Well, actually more than 100, between 100 campaign speeches and interviews that he did. And I saw dozens of interviews with Donald Trump supporters. Many of his supporters are people who were going to vote for him. A lot of people that voted for Trump in 2016 weren't in love with Trump. They saw him as a means to an end. They said this is about the courts. Their main issue was conservative federal judges overturning Roe versus Wade, Supreme Court nominations, taking control of the Supreme Court, making the Supreme Court, getting Supreme Court nominations so you can have conservative judges on the Supreme Court. This is what they were focused on. All right. They're planning 25, 30, 35, 40 years in advance. And many of us are planning first of the month to the end of the month, first of the month to the end of the month. We didn't understand that. Okay. This is understanding strategy, understanding politics. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Okay. I'm going to get to some of the fact checking there, but I got to give you this background information. Understanding how important the courts are. This is why they're trying to ram through Amy Coney Barrett. And you got less than 40 days before the election. This is why they're trying to ram this through. Okay. And McConnell is not clear if McConnell wants to really have this, have the vote on her before or after the election. But they want to ram this through, and Trump definitely wants to ram this through because Trump wants to try to shave off enough votes, invalidate enough votes. So then this has to be adjudicated or litigated and go to the U.S. Supreme Court. And then if he pushes through this third Supreme Court nomination, the court will be 6-3 in favor of Republicans. And he's trying to steal an election in the U.S. Supreme Court. He's already talked about this. He already said that this election could end up in the U.S. Supreme Court, and it's no good having a 4-4 tie in the Supreme Court. He wants to have this. This is what this is all about. This is about raw, naked power. This don't have nothing to do with morals. This don't have nothing to do with saving the little children. They're fighting for raw, naked power. Okay, we have to understand this and defend ourselves against these attacks. All right, now to understand how important the courts are. This is from AM Joy, Joanne Reed show on the weekends, MSNBC. Attorney Elie Mystal, who used to write for, I think he wrote for Law and Crime. What was that? One of those law journals he wrote for. He writes sometimes for thenation.com. He's explaining the importance of the courts, and he's talking about Amy Coney Barrett. Okay, take a listen to this, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to get into some fact checking of what was said tonight. But one of the things that came up was dealing with the federal courts and the U.S. Supreme Court tonight. Let's go to this clip.
Coney Barrett already sits in a stolen seat. She is on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. She fills a seat that was nominated by Barack Obama. Barack Obama nominated a woman named Myra Selby to sit on that circuit, black woman. In 2016. Mitch McConnell blocked the black woman just like he blocked Merrick Garland. And when Trump got in, he appointed Coney Barrett to Selby's seat. The Seventh Circuit, which has 11 justices now, is the only circuit that is an all-white circuit in our country. The Seventh Circuit covers Chicago. All right? So that's the scope of what we're looking at here. Trump has infused the entire federal judiciary, not just the Supreme Court, but everything up and down the federal judiciary with Trump judges, overwhelmingly white judges, overwhelmingly male judges, and we are long overdue for an expansion of those courts to better reflect the plurality and diversity of this country.
So one thing I find interesting is that the right has made this an issue for their base. This has always been what they took with them into the voting booth. The left has not. And the irony of this is that the impact that the courts have disproportionately impact folks on the left, more specifically people of color. What can we do to change the conversation and, quite frankly, the political landscape to make the courts just as important an issue on the left as they are in conservative circles?
Democrats have to do a much better job of messaging to their base about how important the courts are. Republicans do this all the time. Look, I do not think the base Republican voter is any smarter than the base Democratic voter. But the Republicans have made this the one-to-one connection. If you want this, then you must have the courts. If you don't like gay people, then you must have the courts. If you want guns, then you must have the courts. The Democrats do not message to our base in the same way. If you want climate change, then you must have the courts. All right? If you want reasonable gun reform, then you must have the courts. If you want health care, then you must have the courts. The Democrats never make that one-to-one connection. And I think part of the problem is, frankly, arrogance. We are right. We know we're right. More people agree with us. And we think that being right and being, and being in the majority is enough to push the ball. It ain't. What's enough to push the ball is controlling this institution of of judges that are elected for life, that are appointed for life, and represent minority opinions. Controlling that branch is how we control these major issues that we care about.
Okay, so that's all. Hold on, let's
Trump
stop this next clip. Okay, so now I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. You all watch me. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I study law, history, and policies, and I know whose policies usually are most detrimental and hurting us the most. Okay, it's usually coming from Republicans. All right. But what Attorney Ellie Mastall was breaking down is understanding the judicial branch of the government, which a lot of times we don't talk about. We'll focus on the president. We don't focus on the legislative branch. And in the upper chamber is the U.S. Senate. The Senate confirms U.S. Supreme Court judges, federal judges. They confirm the Attorney General, like this sorry ass Attorney General William Barr. They confirm the Treasury Secretary. They confirm the Secretary of Education. The members of the president's cabinet don't get confirmed by the U.S. House of Representatives. That term is only 2 years. That's the lower chamber. They get confirmed by the upper chamber, which is the U.S. Senate, a 6-year term. And originally, for the first about 124 years that the U.S. Senate existed, people did not vote for U.S. senators. The U.S. senators were appointed by the state legislature. Go to Senate.gov. Senate.gov is the official website of the U.S. Senate, and they have a whole section there dealing with the history of the U.S. Senate. It wasn't until 1914 that people started voting for U.S. senators. The reason why was because originally the framers of the Constitution, Philadelphia Convention, 1787, they felt that the position of a U.S. senator was so important because the U.S. Senate had the power to impeach a president and remove a president from office. Therefore, they did not want the senators to feel pressure from constituents and feel pressure from the public and worry about being reelected. They wanted them to be insulated from the politics. So for about the first 124 years or so, 125 years, people didn't even vote for U.S. senators. That changed for the first time in 1914. Okay, go to Senate.gov and read the history of the U.S. Senate. So what Elie Mystal is doing is showing the connection between bills passed in the legislative branch of government. Then when they get challenged in court, having federal judges, okay, the right type of federal judge to rule properly on these various cases. Republicans understand that. Democrats don't. Many African Americans don't. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. There's things Democrats do I disagree with, but I agree with them a lot more than many Republicans. But we have to understand law. We have to understand that judicial branch of the government, okay? Because many of us don't understand law. And when I teach about 6 principles of political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans, things like this is one of the things we talk about. Now, a lot of people say, well, the laws were created to trap us. They're not for us. The laws were created, to be against us. Well, if the laws were created to be against African Americans, shouldn't we understand the law better than white people understand the law? Shouldn't we know where all the booby traps are and all the pitfalls are so we don't get caught up in it? And we know how to navigate around that. This is understanding political self-defense. We need to understand this better than they understand it. If they're trying to use it to trap us, that's just logical. All right. Okay, let's continue. How's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Okay, so we're doing a recap of the presidential debate. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, first presidential debate. Chris Wallace did a horrible job moderating. He had a big challenge. They need more than one person moderating. With this ignorant ass Donald Trump, you need like 3 or 4 people moderating. Okay, seriously. You can't just have one person moderating. So let's look at some of the statements that were made. So first we talked about the federal judges, and it came up that 128 federal judges, 128 nominations from President Obama were blocked, and that was in the last 2 years. We played the clip from Moscow Mitch McConnell. McConnell and Republicans in the Senate blocked President Obama's nominations. It wasn't just Merrick Garland for the U.S. Supreme Court. It was at the federal for the federal bench also. Okay, so let's look at some of the fact checking from the Washington Post here. Let's go to the Washington Post. All right, let's look at some of the things. I'm looking at their fact checking. If you go to WashingtonPost.com, you'll see it. Let's look at a recap of some of the things that happened. So Donald Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden met in the first of 3 scheduled debates. Now I don't know what the hell is going to happen in the next 2 debates. This one at Cleveland's Case Western Reserve University and moderated by Chris Wallace of Fox News. I thought Chris Wallace was going to lose it a couple of times with Trump. And tell him, sit your ignorant ass. The topics addressed were the Supreme Court, as Trump nominee Amy Coney Barrett meets with Republican senators, the COVID-19 outbreak, 205,000 people dead because of Donald Trump. Okay, and you see me break this down. How he when he was interviewed by Bob Woodward February 7th, he admitted to Bob Woodward that he knew the severity of it, of COVID-19, but he was downplaying the severity of it to the public. Okay, so and there still is no national plan to deal with coronavirus either. There still is no national plan to deal with coronavirus. Actually, if we look here, just show you this quickly. And then before February 7th was one of the interviews with Bob Woodward. February 7th, Donald Trump said, "It's a very tricky situation. It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. You know the touch. You don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air, and that's how it's passed. So February 7th, 2020, Donald Trump knew coronavirus was transmitted through the air, and you could breathe it in. He knew this, but he was downplaying the severity of it in public. And then February 28th, he said that coronavirus was the Democrats' new hoax. All right. The month before that, January 28th, you read this article from Washington Post. Woodward book, Bob Woodward. Trump says he knew coronavirus was deadly and worse than the flu while intentionally misleading Americans. January 28, 2020, Robert O'Brien, who was Donald Trump's then national security advisor, briefed Donald Trump on coronavirus and the severity of it, what they knew at that time. And he said, national security advisor Robert O'Brien said, this will be the biggest national security threat you face in your presidency. This is what he told Trump. Trump ignored this. Okay. Read this extensive article here from the Washington Post. Woodward book. Trump says he knew coronavirus was deadly and worse than the flu while intentionally misleading Americans. Okay. So check that out. All right. So they talked about coronavirus. They talked about the economy. Donald Trump inherited a relatively healthy economy from the Obama-Biden administration. And because of Trump's incompetency and because he mishandled coronavirus, it destroyed the economy. You had 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth. Okay. 113 months of consecutive private sector job growth that ended under Donald Trump. It started under the Obama administration. It ended earlier this year. Now you have, in the last 28 weeks, is right at about 30 million people unemployed because of coronavirus. It's expected half of these jobs won't come back. And when you look at the article from Forbes.com that you hear me talk about a lot, which deals with how the coronavirus has devastated small businesses. 41% as of April this year, 41% of African-American owned businesses have been wiped out because of this coronavirus economy. Okay, 41%. Now it's probably at about 50% because we're almost into October. It's probably at about 50% now. All right. If you look at this article here from Forbes.com, people that don't, if you follow us here on the African History Network, I post articles from all different sources because I'm on 35 different news sources on a daily basis. Read this article. The COVID-19 crisis has wiped out nearly half of Black small businesses. The COVID-19 crisis has wiped out nearly half of Black small businesses. Okay. This is from August 10th, 2020. And they go through and break this down and talk about the devastating impact that coronavirus has had on small businesses, but also African-American owned businesses. All right. So when Donald Trump came out with his platinum plan for African-Americans, which is really a fool's gold plan. If you saw our show Sunday night, September 27th, 2020, installment of the African History Network show, I went through and broke that down. And then also the previous 5 weeks, I've been going through breaking down Joe Biden's 22-page agenda to empower Black America, the Lift Every Voice plan. This is the second time I've gone through. I went through May through June because it came out May 4th, 2020. For those that don't know, this may be your first time hearing this type of information or first time tuning in. Biden's agenda for African Americans came out May 4th, 2020. I went through all 6 parts of it May through June of this year. We're going back through it again now. So this coming Sunday will be the 6th installment of it. Okay. And it's all here at our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. And we have all of our shows in audio podcast format. I'll be uploading some more shows tomorrow. If you go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, which is our website, on the homepage, click on Listen to Podcasts. We have over 1,000 podcasts there going back to 2010. Okay, so nearly half of black small businesses have been wiped out by the end of April 2020 as the pandemic ravaged minority communities disproportionately, according to a report from the New York Federal Reserve, the New York Fed. Black owned businesses were more than twice as likely to shutter or close as their white counterparts, the report found. Okay. Black businesses experienced the most acute decline. So nationally representative data on small businesses indicate that the number of active business owners fell by 22% from February to April 2020. Okay. The number of active business owners fell by 22% from February to April 2020, the largest drop on record. Black businesses experienced the most acute decline with a 41% drop. Latinx business owners fell by 32%, and Asian business owners dropped by 26%. I thought all Asians. Now the Asian unemployment rate has increased also. Just so people don't know. So people say Asians aren't employed. I don't know where the hell you got that from. Generally, they may have a low unemployment rate, but it's just like people say Asians don't vote. That's not true. What the hell are you talking about? Go to NBCnews.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, it's like 3 or 4 horizontal lines. Click there, and it brings up their platforms. Go to the Asian American platform and read those articles dealing with the Asian American community. They deal with Asian Americans and the 2020 vote. Asians do vote. What happens is their history is different than ours, and many of them are coming from countries where they could not vote. So many of them don't have a history of voting like we do in this country because of the 15th Amendment of 1870, okay? And then the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But there's been an increase in the percentage of Asians voting. They've gone from about 3.5% of the voting electorate to 5%, and they're being targeted more by politicians. There are a number of articles there at the Asian American platform at NBCnews.com that deals with this. So I don't know where people got this nonsense from. Asians don't vote. That's just not true at all. Okay, so read this article from Forbes.com. Okay, let's go back to. I want to go back to the Washington Post. Okay, so they talk about the economy, race, racism in America, the candidates' records, the climate, etc. Trump frequently interrupted both Biden and Wallace. We know that. He's a bully. He didn't want Biden to break down the facts. He's a bully. Okay. Okay, so let's see. They're giving us a synopsis here. The Bidens paid, so they're talking about taxes. The Bidens paid nearly $300,000 in federal income taxes on earnings of more than $985,000 in 2019. You know, Sunday night we talked about the story that broke from the New York Times dealing with Trump and his taxes. And more importantly than Trump only paying $750 in taxes in 2016, 2017. That ain't the most important thing. Most important thing is that he has debt of at least $421 million, and it's a personal guarantee, and it comes due in about 4 years. So if you saw the articles that I posted today, you have experts, and even Nancy Pelosi said this makes Trump a national security risk because we don't know who he owes the money to. Some of the money is owed to Deutsche Bank. We know that. That's the only bank that would allow him money. But we don't know if he owes money to foreign countries. We know he owes money to Deutsche Bank, which is problematic because a few years ago, Deutsche Bank had to pay a $600 million fine to the U.S. federal government because they were caught laundering $10 billion in money from Russia. Okay, research that, Deutsche Bank. Okay, so because we don't know who he owes the money to, we don't know how much of a risk he is. And when you look at Jared Kushner, Jared Kushner owes Deutsche Bank $285 million. There's no way Jared Kushner should have a national security. There's no way Jared Kushner should have a top-level security clearance because he's a security risk because of the amount of money he owes. This is stuff we've never seen before. So then when it came up tonight where Trump has not confronted Vladimir Putin for putting the bounties on soldiers' heads, U.S. soldiers' heads in Afghanistan. And Trump has admitted he's had a number of conversations with Putin since that story broke. You have to ask the question, why? When he talks about he loves the military so much, we've done so much for the military, you have to ask the question, why? Okay, so Joe Biden leads Donald Trump by 8 percentage points nationally. A poll came out today, 51% to 43%, according to a Washington Post average of polls. That was a Washington Post average of polls. Then a couple of days ago, the poll came out, Washington Post ABC News poll. Biden was leading Trump nationally by 10 points. Biden's margin is the same in Pennsylvania and smaller in other key states, 7 points in Wisconsin, 7 points in Michigan, 5 in Arizona, and 1 in Florida. Okay, so let's look at some of the fact checking here. Trump continues his misleading attacks on mail-in voting. Trump knows that if he allows this mail-in voting to take place, he knows they're going to vote his ass out of office. So what he's trying to do, he put LaJoy in charge of the U.S. Postal Service. They broke down a lot of the sorting machines from the U.S. Postal Service. This slowed down the processing of mail. They've made all types of changes in the postal system, and this is all geared towards slowing down the mailing of the voting ballots, of the mail-in ballots, okay? Because Trump is trying these various tactics to win an election, still another election, okay? Because he won electoral college that unfortunately we don't understand. And I'll be doing another broadcast going through dealing with how the electoral college works. I did one in 2016 after the 2016 election. I'm going to do one very soon so our people understand this. The people who tell you the popular vote does not matter, they've never studied the electoral college. It's not true. It's not the popular vote nationwide that matters. It's the popular vote per state that matters, because you become president-elect by getting at least 270 electoral college votes. You get to 270 electoral college votes by winning the electoral college votes associated with each state. Each state has at least 3 electoral college votes. Maine and Vermont have 3. Michigan has 16. Texas has 66. Texas has 38. California has 66. Okay, it's not the popular vote does matter, but which popular vote matters is not the popular vote is not the national popular vote that matters. It's the popular vote per state that matters. This is why Republicans in 2016 engaged in rampant voter suppression in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, other key battleground states that shave off 1 or 2 percentage points. Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. The interstate cross-check system that knocked 1.1 million people off the voter rolls. This is one of the voter suppression tactics. The interstate cross-checking system in 2016 knocked about 50,000 people off the voter rolls in Michigan, about 54,000 in Michigan. Jill Stein got 50,000 votes out of Michigan also. But Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. So we're being attacked. I'm not even talking about the Russian intervention that took place. I'm not even talking about the story that broke in the last couple of days that dealt with how the Trump administration, and I printed up the article. I think it's in my backpack. That deals with how the Trump administration targeted African Americans with a campaign to discourage them from voting. They identified 3 million African Americans and identified them as deterrents, and target them with messages to discourage them from voting. This was in 2016. The story just broke in the past couple of days. It was a UK news source, and it was picked up by U.S. news sources. Okay, so check that out. There's a Channel 4 News, and that broke this story. All right, we'll talk about that some on our Sunday night show. But these are all ways that we're under attack, and many of us don't know this. Okay, I'll try to pull up. We'll try to pull up that article also, and give you the name of that one. All right, so let's continue here. So just bear with me, everybody. Okay, because we just jumped on after the this, and this is like watching WWE wrestling or something. So Trump continues his misleading attacks on mail-in voting. In the final moments of Tuesday's debate, Donald Trump repeated his baseless claim that mail-in balloting will invite widespread fraud and declined to commit to accepting the results of the election because he's trying to steal the election. Okay, he'll only accept the results if he wins in the U.S. Supreme Court, if he can disqualify, because he has amassed an army of something like at least 1,000 attorneys to challenge ballots. Okay, last I saw, it may be more now. Last I saw was a few weeks ago. Joe Biden had an army of about 600 attorneys, but this was a few weeks ago. It's probably more now, but I know at least 3 or 4 weeks ago, Biden had an army of about 600 attorneys. Let's continue here. So Trump said he can't go along with an election result based on millions of mailed ballots, particularly if many of those ballots are received and counted after Election Day. All right, now Trump claimed that the ballots with his okay. So this story coming out of Pennsylvania has been discredited. This story coming out of Pennsylvania and having the 9 ballots in the trash can and the 7 other ballots were in Trump's name or something like that. Research that. That's been discredited. Okay. The matter remains under investigation, and the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Pennsylvania has announced that the 7 of the 9 ballots have been cast for Trump. A contract worker in the elections office who discarded the ballots has been fired. It is unknown why the worker discarded the ballots. There's more information dealing with that, because some of the information I've seen around this is that this whole story has been discredited. Okay, so check that out. So Trump refuses to promise not to declare preemptive victory while Biden urges calm. Okay, we'll skip over that. Trump says he's counting on the Supreme Court to settle disputes over mail-in ballots. Okay, which is true. Let's see here. Let me switch over to. I want to switch over to NBC News. A lot of information that they had in their fact checking was better so far. Let's see here. Let me refresh this here for NBCnews.com. All right, okay, so they're going through. Let's go through. Look at the fact check. Whether it's Biden being fact checked or Donald Trump. NBC News looks like they're faster here dealing with the fact check than Washington Post. I would think Washington Post would be faster because I have a subscription to Washington Post. I pay them each month. So I thought they just billed me. So I thought Washington Post would be faster, but looks like NBC News is. Okay, so fact check. Biden says 1 in 1,000 Black Americans have been killed by coronavirus. Biden claimed earlier in the evening that 1 in 1,000 African Americans have been killed because of the coronavirus, and said that if Trump doesn't do something quickly by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. So they say there's no question that Black Americans have been severely impacted. We know, 200,000 deaths, a little more than 200,000 deaths, 20% of are African Americans. So you're looking at about at least 40,000 African Americans have died from coronavirus. There's no question that Black Americans have been more severely impacted by COVID-19 than whites. Even the administration's public health agency agrees that Black Americans are disproportionately affected. A number of analysis and studies that show that people of color in America have been hit harder by coronavirus and are more likely to know someone who has died from the virus. Biden here, however, appears to be referencing a study on death rates, not on overall numbers. Okay. A recent study from the APM Research Lab found that the COVID-19 death rate for African Americans is 1 in 1,020. Okay, 1 in 1,020, or 97.9 deaths per 100,000 people. 97.9 deaths per 100,000. The report notes that, quote, if they had died of COVID-19 at the same actual rate as white Americans, about 20,800 blacks, 10,900 Latinos, 700 indigenous, and 80 Pacific Islander Americans would still be alive. Okay. If the report notes that if they had died of COVID-19 at the same actual rate as white Americans, about 20,800 black Americans would still be alive. But that study does not address how the disparity in death rate will change by the end of the year. NBC News has reached out to the Biden campaign for additional information. All right. Okay. Some stupid things I'm just going to skip over. Oh, there's a 2 minute. Harris announces Trump's. Okay. Kellyanne Conway did say that violence in the streets benefits the Trump administration. Fact check: did Kellyanne Conway say violence and chaos help Trump's cause? Because I heard her say it. Trump disputed a broadside attack by Biden that Kellyanne Conway, his senior advisor, Trump's former campaign manager and top White House aide, said riots and chaos, quote, help Trump's cause, end quote. But Conway did make comments along those lines in late August. His own, okay, so that is true. And let's see here. Okay, they have the. Well, I'm going to post this link here. You can check these out, and they have the video. There's a link to the video of Kellyanne Conway actually saying that she was being interviewed. Okay, and that's come back to haunt them. Let me see here. Let me refresh this because they just did an update. Poll watchers in the 2016 campaign on Donald Trump's website, they were encouraging people to go to his website and sign up to be poll watchers. Okay, to go to the polls and watch people, make sure people aren't cheating when it comes to voting. They're trying to intimidate, but they're not telling these white people to go be poll watchers in their own communities. They're basically telling them to come into non-white communities and be poll watchers. Okay, they're not saying go to your neighborhood polling place and be a poll watcher there. That's not what they're saying. So Trump says poll watchers were thrown out in Pennsylvania. What really happened? Notice how he targeted Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He talked about Chicago. He talked about Pennsylvania. He talked about New York. Now he noticed he didn't talk about a lot of white rural communities that have been hit hard by opioid addiction and had increases in crime and things like that. Notice he didn't talk about that. He's targeting cities that have a higher African American population or higher Hispanic population. Trump said that his campaign's poll watchers were thrown out of voting sites in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He said, quote, today there was a big problem in Philadelphia. They went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, a very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia. He's targeting Philadelphia, higher percentage of African Americans. Bad things happen in Philadelphia, he said toward the end of Tuesday's debate. Now, I guarantee you on the campaign trail, he'll talk about Philadelphia. He'll talk about Chicago. He'll talk about Detroit. And he'll say, this is why we need to have poll watchers go to those communities. Now, the reason why they were thrown out, that's because the poll watchers were not approved to be at that particular location. This is why they were thrown out. A Philadelphia Inquirer reporter, Philadelphia Inquirer newspaper, a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer at a Board of Elections satellite office said Tuesday that a woman who said she was hired by the Trump campaign as a poll watcher was not allowed into office. But a spokesperson from the city commissioner's office said that's because satellite voting officials do not qualify as voting places, so poll watchers cannot be given poll watcher certificates to allow them to observe the process. So this is why the woman didn't have the right credentials to be a poll watcher. It wasn't because something illegal or unsavory was going on. This is why she didn't have the right credentials to be a poll watcher. Quote, the satellite offices are board of election offices that provide voter services to residents of Philadelphia for registration, absentee, and mail-in ballots. Individuals are able to go to those offices for those types of services, said Nick Custodio, a Philadelphia deputy commissioner. He said this to NBC News. Okay, so you can read the rest of this. You can read the rest of that fact check. I'm going to post this link here. This is for NBC News, so you don't have to have a subscription. You don't have to pay money to read the articles from NBC News, because the majority of the articles from Washington Post, you have to have a digital subscription. It's like $10 a month. One of the packages, 15, something like that. I have subscriptions to New York Times and Washington Post because I read them every day. How's everybody doing? Okay. Welcome to our, this is our first presidential post-debate briefing, recap, fact check. It was a crazy, crazy ass debate. I don't know what's going to happen in the next two debates. I don't know what's going to happen in the next two debates. Okay. Donald Trump was totally belligerent, and he just showed his entire ass tonight. So this is crazy. So we're going to continue. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me /the AHN show, paypal.me /the AHN show. That helps us keep doing the research, broadcast on Sunday night shows, stay on the air, etc. Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's looking at some of the fact checking from NBC News, and we'll go back and look at the Washington Post here in just a minute. This one right here. Fact check. Did Obama hand Donald Trump the slowest recovery or a booming economy? Now, Donald Trump continues to lie and say we had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of America. That's not true. When you look at it based upon GDP, percentage of GDP, no, is not the greatest economy in the history of this country, anything like that. All right. Donald Trump inherited a relatively healthy economy from the Obama-Biden administration. There were 15.1 million jobs created during the 8 years of President Obama. 2.95 million jobs went to African Americans. He inherited a relatively very low unemployment rate as well. The unemployment rate continued to fall under Trump. Okay, but then but also what's important to note is that the economy was slowing down under Trump. You had 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth. It starts under the Obama administration. Most of it was under the Obama administration, continues under Trump. The last 3 years of the Obama administration, 1.5 million jobs were created. And that was more jobs were created in the last 3 years of the Obama administration than the first 3 years of the Trump administration. Notice how Donald Trump never gives the Obama-Biden administration any credit for handing off a largely healthy economy to him. Notice this. It's just he did all this himself. Okay. So fact check. Did Obama hand Trump the slowest recovery or a booming economy? Donald Trump claimed that the Obama-Biden administration had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. Okay. And then he says when the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. So Biden replied by saying, look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs that you talked about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it. Okay. Now, just as a side note, I've lived in Detroit all my life. The Obama-Biden administration saved General Motors and Chrysler. In saving General Motors and Chrysler, they saved about 1 million jobs tied to the auto industry that they saved, because if General Motors and Chrysler went under, one, I don't know what would have happened to Detroit, and the economy would have taken a huge hit nationally. Okay. If you go back and look at quotes from Trump, Trump was against the bailout of General Motors and Chrysler. And what Trump actually said was he said the government should let those two companies go bankrupt. Those companies should take their plants and move them down south and move to states that don't have unions, so you can pay the people lower wages and they'll just be forced to take what you offer them. This is what Trump said. Okay, now several key economic indicators show that the economy was well into recovery under the Obama administration before Trump took office. Furthermore, other metrics show that Trump did not significantly grow the economy any more than the Obama White House did. Looking at the broadest measure of economic health, gross domestic product, the numbers show that the average quarterly growth under Donald Trump has been 2.5%. And that was almost exactly what it was under the Obama administration in Obama's second term at 2.4%. Okay. We're looking at the GDP, gross domestic product, which is the total value of goods, services, and income, the three components of GDP, gross domestic product, the total value of goods, services, and income that is produced in a country. Okay, so the Trump administration has rightly taken credit for having low unemployment during his presidency, but the idea that Trump rebuilt the economy is misleading, because he did not. Unemployment under President Obama had already been trending downward. In December of 2019, before the coronavirus pandemic hit, the U.S. unemployment rate was a scant 3.5%, the lowest it had been in 50 years. Go to BLS.gov, Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov. That's the Labor Department. Search for how is the unemployment rate calculated? How is the unemployment rate calculated? So when they talk about 3.5%, that's the U3 number. There's 6 different main unemployment metrics, unemployment rates, U1 through U6. They represent different things. The U3, which is what you usually hear in the news the first Friday of each month when the jobs numbers come out. The jobs report comes out usually about 9 a.m. the first Friday of each month, okay? Every Thursday, 8:30 a.m., the unemployment numbers come out, which tells you how many people filed for unemployment the first time from the previous week. So a lot of people paying attention to that because it's last week is about 860,000, and for about 26 weeks or so, it was at 1 million or more due to coronavirus. Okay, these are all metrics that impact the economy. So if you go to BLS.gov, Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the Labor Department, search for how is the unemployment rate calculated. Okay. All right, let's continue here. So in December 2019, before the coronavirus pandemic hit, the U.S. unemployment rate was a scant 3.5%, the lowest it had been in 50 years. Okay. However, as good as that number was, when Trump took office, the rate was already at 4.7%. That's the overall unemployment rate, 4.7%. It was very low. Okay. President Obama does not get credit for this. Trump just takes all the credit and we created the greatest economy in the history of the world and things like this. No, you didn't. The figure is quite low by historical standards, lower than all of the 1980s, as well as most of the 1990s and 2000s. In fact, President Obama saw a much steeper drop in unemployment in his second term, a 3.3% drop in the rate. than Trump did in his first 3 years, a decline of 1.2 points. Plus, there was 1.5 million jobs created in the last 3 years of President Obama, and it was more than the number of jobs created in the first 3 years of the Trump administration. Trump will never admit that, though. All right, let's continue here. How's everybody doing? Let's see here. Let me look at this one post, because I did a Facebook post here dealing with the jobs. 1.5 million more jobs created in the last 3 years of Obama than the first 3 years of Trump. All right, so the number under Trump appear to be the continuation of a trend, not something new. Job creation numbers offer more evidence for this. On average, there were more jobs added monthly in Obama's second term than there were in Trump's first 3 years. So when I do radio here in Detroit, I'm on Sunday nights, but even when I was doing the morning show, Wake Up with Steve Hood, and I was on every Thursday. It was on like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. in the morning. And you have a lot of these white Donald Trump supporters call in. Those are some of the most ignorant ass people, because once they get past their talking points that they got from Fox News, they have no clue what to say. When you start breaking down unemployment numbers to them and GDP, things like this, they don't know what to do. This is a cult. This is a cult of personality. On MSNBC, Joy Reid talked about the difference between the last few weeks or so. She talked about the difference between a religion and a cult. And she said, in a religion, your savior dies for you. In a cult, you're asked to die for your savior. See, when you look at Trump and he has 500, 600 people there close together at a rally, and most of them are not wearing face masks, okay? Surgical masks. That's a cult, because those are super spreader events. You're going to have a lot of these people getting coronavirus, and a lot of them going to end up dying. I'm just going to be honest. Unfortunately, bless their little hearts. A lot of them are going to end up dying because a lot of them have lost their jobs, lost their health care. Okay. And, and the crazy thing about it is Trump has them to sign a waiver before they can attend his super spreader event, saying that if they get coronavirus, they get sick, they don't hold the Trump campaign, Donald Trump, anybody responsible. So you know something's wrong if you have to have them sign a waiver like that. All right, let's continue here. We'll be here for a little while longer. So on average, the country created 215,000 new jobs a month under Obama's second term. In Trump's first 3 years, the figure was 182,000. Okay. So the black man's was bigger than Trump's. Trump can't handle that. Okay. See, stuff like this, Trump doesn't want to admit he can't handle this. They are both good numbers. And if you look at the jobs data plotted on a graph, the rise since 2011 actually looks pretty consistent. Okay, there is one indicator that suggests a change under Trump: the rise in the stock market. On December 31st, 2019, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is an average of 30 corporations, the stock prices of 30 corporations. Okay, you have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, you have the New York Stock Exchange, you have NASDAQ, you have Standard & Poor's. So you have different stock exchanges. Okay. But the main one, the most popular one, is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Okay. So, on December 31st, 2019, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was at 28,538. Okay. This was up 56% from 18,332, where it was the day Trump was elected in 2016. From Obama's second election day until 2016, the Dow climbed 38%. So we saw the Dow hit record highs under President Obama. One of the differences is that Trump thinks that the stock market is a good indicator of the health of the overall economy, and is not necessarily that's not necessarily so, because the Dow right now is probably close to another record, but you have 30 million people who are unemployed. You still have 30 million people who are unemployed, and they lost their jobs in like the last 28 weeks. Okay, so you have people being unemployed. You're about to experience some massive evictions and foreclosures if we don't see relief coming from federal government, restoring the weekly unemployment insurance. It was $600. That expired July 31st. Okay. Moscow Mitch McConnell sent the Senate on a 1-month recess before they came to an agreement on the $3 trillion HEROES Act that was passed in the House of Representatives in May 2020. It was sent to the Senate, and McConnell just kept pushing through unqualified, ultra-conservative white judges. And then the $600 a week unemployment insurance from the federal government expired. He lets the Senate go on recess. Okay. And they still haven't really come to a consensus with Democrats on a new bill. You have Nancy Pelosi that just introduced a revised $2.2 trillion bill. We'll see what McConnell does in the Senate. But see, this is an example of how elections have consequences. All this affects the economy. When you had that extra $2,400 a month from the federal government and unemployment insurance, when that disappeared, that negatively impacted the economy in a lot of these cities, Detroit, Philadelphia, Chicago, because these people, not just African Americans, but people on unemployment in general. And there's 30 million people unemployed now. Okay. But when they didn't have that extra money, that's less money they have to spend with businesses in their communities. Okay. So the other side of this pandemic, we're going to see millions of evictions and foreclosures. And also, we're going to see more businesses just totally go out of business. People lose their investments they have in their business, things like this. This is what happens when you have incompetent leadership. People think elections don't have consequences. Yes, they do. This is why Republicans work so hard to suppress our vote, because they know the importance of elections. Okay, I'm all for economic empowerment, things like this, but all the economic empowerment gurus and things like this, people in 2016 said, we don't need to vote. We just need to do economic empowerment and invest in the stock market. And I said, that's good, but we also need to vote, because you need to vote for a president who's going to protect the economy that your black business operates within and depends upon, because businesses depend upon a stable, healthy economy for them to survive. Okay, we have to elect a Senate that's going to pass bills that will protect the economy. Okay, as opposed to being derelict in their duties. And to be quite honest with you, the Republican senators that refused to remove Donald Trump from office early February 2020 during the impeachment trial, a lot of them have blood on their hands too, because if they had removed him from office early February, like February 5th, 2020, February 6th, they removed him from office, Pence would have become president. Pence is bad, but he's more responsible than Trump. A lot of these people who died from coronavirus, a lot of them would be alive today, because Pence would have taken action. Because see, Pence was the governor of Indiana, even though he botched their response to HIV and the distribution of needles to drug addicts and things like that. Pence is a lot more responsible than Trump, even though he's bad. Okay, a lot of these people would still be alive. It would not be nearly as bad if those Republicans had done their job, because they knew Trump was guilty and removed him from office. Therefore, they have to be removed from office. Okay, so Moscow Mitch McConnell's up for re-election November 3rd, 2020. Senator Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, he was on Fox News begging for money because Jamie Harrison is kicking his behind, rightfully so. Okay, Lindsey Graham is who's chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, by the way. The Senate Judiciary Committee is the committee that will hold the hearings for Amy Coney Barrett. Okay, then they hold their hearings. They take their vote to proceed to the general body of the Senate for the general body to vote on her confirmation. Well, Lindsey Graham is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. The Senate Judiciary Committee is also the committee that holds the hearings for federal judges, which are lifetime appointments also. All right. So read this here from NBCnews.com. Let's get a couple more in. The fact check did. Okay, we know the story about Trump calling veterans who risked their lives or who lost their lives in war, something like that, suckers and losers. Biden made this claim Tuesday evening, and it accurately reflects media reports citing multiple sources, saying that the Atlantic broke that story. The Atlantic.com. Biden appears to be referring to a recent report in the Atlantic, which zeroed in on Trump's rhetoric about service members, citing 4 people with firsthand knowledge of the discussions. The magazine reported that Trump canceled a trip to a cemetery near Paris in 2018 because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain. The Atlantic then was first to report that in a conversation with senior staff members, Trump said, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." Trump also reportedly called the more than 1,800 fallen Marines, quote unquote, suckers for getting killed during the World War I battle. The Atlantic's report was confirmed by the Associated Press, while the Washington Post reported similar rhetoric about fallen service members. Donald Trump denied the Atlantic report is fake, but we see how Donald Trump treated John McCain, who was a war veteran as well. He was a POW, Vietnam War, and we all remember on the campaign trail where Trump said McCain was he was a hero because he was captured. He said he likes his heroes that aren't captured or something like that. Okay, let's look at a couple more here. Trump tries to tie Biden to the Green New Deal. Biden does not support the Green New Deal. Okay, fact check. Biden says violent crime fell under Obama, rose under Trump. So on Tuesday night, Joe Biden says violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration. It goes up on his watch, goes up under Trump. Biden's attack is half true. Asked about this claim, the Biden campaign points to a factcheck.org review of FBI violent crime data during the Obama administration that found that the violent crime rate fell nearly 16% when adjusted for population. Okay. The violent crime rate fell nearly 16% when adjusted for population. That's under the Obama administration. While the number appears to check out, Biden's attack on Trump is unfounded. While homicide has been on the rise, violent crime has remained largely flat under the Trump administration. Okay. So it's like half, Biden's attack is half true. Okay. Let me load some more here because they've added some more. Just give me a minute here. Let's flip over. How's everybody doing? Okay. Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. We'll be here for a few more minutes. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. Follow me on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. And turn on notifications so you know when we go live there as well. Okay. And then also, if you like this type of information, you read our articles that we post here daily. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's continue here. And then listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're here every Sunday, and we're on. We broadcast on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit also. All right, let's continue. Okay, so we did a refresh. Okay, so let's talk about Beau Biden. Relying on white supremacist votes. Analysis, relying on white supremacist votes. It should not be hard to, so this is from Jonathan Allen for NBC News. Asked to reject people so motivated by racism that they form groups devoted to it, Donald Trump failed to do so. He seemed like he might do it. He said, quote, stand back and stand by, end quote, whatever that means. He said after asking whom he was supposed to condemn. But instead of attacking white supremacists, he launched a rhetoric assault on Antifa. Antifa is not a white supremacist group. And also, Antifa is not an organization. Antifa is an ideology. Antifa stands for anti-fascist or anti-fascism. And they largely are against Trump. All right. Now, I'm going to try to pull up this article here because Washington Post had the article. His FBI director, Christopher Wray, testified 2 or 3 weeks ago that talked about how basically like the biggest threat to America were these white supremacist, white nationalist organizations that Donald Trump has not condemned. Okay. Largely Donald Trump has not condemned them. Let me try to pull this up because I posted this article. When it came out. We posted it on our Facebook pages here. But this is extremely important because his Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, they'll talk about the severity of these white supremacist, white nationalist organizations. Donald Trump does not condemn them. Okay? He encourages them. FBI director says why, let's see, interference would be a major challenge. Let's see. I think it's in this article here. We'll pull this up. Okay, let's continue. Okay, fact check. Did Biden call Black Americans super predators? Donald Trump said, look at the crime bill 1994. And we've talked about the 94 crime bill in the past, and I went through and broke down different parts of it. There's a fact sheet that I show people that breaks down like 18 different parts of the crime bill. When you separate fact from fiction and understand things like 87% of the people that went to prison went under state law, not federal law. You understand that from 1970 to 93, the U.S. prison population quadruples. It goes from 300,000 in 1970 to 1.3 million in 1993. If you go, this is the year before the crime bill. If you go to bjs.gov, Bureau of Justice Statistics, bjs.gov, and look at the prison population from say about 66 to up until now, because during the 8 years of President Obama, the U.S. prison population continues to drop. It drops to its lowest point in 20 years in December 2015. According to the Department of Justice report that came out December 2016, that was cited by Newsweek.com in their article dealing with how the U.S. prison population dropped to its lowest point in 20 years in December 2015. The U.S. prison population dropped to 1.53 million. Okay, it was at a peak of about 2.3 million in about 2008. Okay. So a lot of this stuff one of the most important things, and I've done lectures dealing with the history of the war on drugs, starting with Richard Nixon's war on drugs. He declared June 17th, 1971, and looking at the increase and the changing of the laws, looking at the increase in the prison population, changing of the laws, things like this. One of the things people don't make the distinction between is federal law and state law. Okay. And I have a number of articles dealing with the crime bill. There were things that were good in the crime bill, like the assault rifle ban, the Violence Against Women Act. You had things like part of the crime bill was the Department of Justice had the power to investigate the patterns and practices of police departments, okay, and enter into consent decrees with police departments. And there's a process that they go through if a police department is so corrupt that it just has to be abolished. Okay, there's a whole process for that. That's part of the crime bill. A lot of people don't know that. The other bad things are a part of it. For instance, the dealing with the death penalty, expanding the number of federal crimes that were punishable by the death penalty. You had $9.8 billion set aside for states, and it dealt with the truth in sentencing law, where you had to serve 85% of your prison sentence before you could be released. Okay. And so the states, to tap into this money, they had to agree to have prisoners serve 85% of their prison sentence. Okay. 28 states out of 50 took advantage of that. It wasn't all 50 states, 28 states out of 50 and the District of Columbia. The Brennan Center for Justice has research dealing with this. Okay. So when you actually look at it, when you actually study it, and then deal with, okay, violent crime peaks in 92, starts leveling off in 94. After the crime bill, you see a decrease in violent crime. Some people say, well, hey, it was going to fall anyway. Other people attribute it. Some of the fall did have to do with regulations and things like that in the crime bill. Some of it had to do with the fact that it was falling as well. Okay, in general. So, I mean, there were good and bad things in the 94 crime. But I've dealt with this before and went through, and we look at things specifically. But when you look at the prison population and criminal justice, you can't look at it in 1 year. You have to look at it as a continuum, because it's part of a continuum. The U.S. prison population quadruples from 1970 to 93. Okay. And that starts under Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon declares his war on drugs June 17th, 1971, because Nixon ran in 68 on the platform of law and order. And law and order means basically protect white people and lock up African Americans. That's basically what law and order means. Okay. And I think the lecture that I did dealing with Richard Nixon's war on drugs, we're going to re-air that here on the African History Network, because I have a lot of information dealing with that. But you have to go back to Nixon's war on drugs and then Ronald Reagan's war on drugs in 1982. And when you look at this, you have to look at this as a continuum. Go back to 66 and 67 because of the rebellions that were taking place in this country, and understand that Richard Nixon, running for president in 1968 on the platform of law and order, Nixon is a backlash to the Black Power movement, backlash to the Black Panther Party for self-defense, backlash to the civil rights movement, largely affirmative action. He's a backlash to the rebellions that are taking place all across the country, the quote unquote riots. He's a backlash to all that. Okay. So he's cracking down with law and order, which is what Trump is doing. This is a throwback to Nixon. Trump did this in 2016. Okay. And now he's saying, oh, they're going to come and there's going to be low income housing in your suburbs, and black people are coming to your suburbs. Cory Booker is going to be your neighbor, things like this. And there goes neighborhood. All right. So he's running a Richard Nixon campaign as well, except this time he's the incumbent. 68, Nixon was not the incumbent because President Lyndon Johnson, did not run for another term. So Nixon in 68 was not the incumbent. Here, Trump is the incumbent. Okay. It's not going to work this time. Okay. People are looking at what's going on. Everything Trump is saying is going to happen under a Biden administration is happening right now under a Trump administration. So, all right. Somebody said they both acted like children. No, they didn't both act like children the entire time. What happened was Trump was acting like a bully. So you have to engage somewhat with the bully. But if you notice, Biden, a lot of times Biden is talking directly to the camera. He's talking directly to the American people watching. All right. The problem was you only had one moderator. You needed more than one moderator to deal with Trump. You can't. The next two, if they're actually going to have two more, then they're scheduled for two more debates. If they actually go through with two more debates, you can't just have one moderator. You got to have 3 or 4. Okay. Is it? But I said, hey, what's up? I said, Isis, how you doing? She said Biden could get away. No, Biden got in a lot of information, but he didn't. You see, I think it's an African proverb: never argue with a fool, because if someone comes along and sees the two of you arguing, they won't know which one is the fool. Okay, so Trump wanted to be in his alternate universe, so Biden just started focusing on the camera and said, "Look, he doesn't care about. He doesn't care." He said, "Look, he doesn't care about the people who died." He said, "Look, this is about you. This is about your family." All right, so Trump doesn't want the truth to get out. All right, so let's look at a little more fact checking here. Okay, fact check. Did Biden call Black Americans super predators? Okay, Trump said, look at the crime bill, 94 crime bill, where you called them super predators, African Americans are super predators, etc. They said this is mostly false. It was Hillary Clinton, then the first lady, who used the term super predator to advocate for the 94 crime bill. Actually, and also, just a point of fact check. I talked about this in 2016. If you actually go look at her actual statements, and I think I probably have it here because I have thousands of articles bookmarked. Even though I disagree with the term super predator, and thinking back to 94, I don't even remember the term super predator back in 94. I was like, I left college in 95, graduated in 94, did some postgraduate work in 95. So 94, I don't remember the term super predator, but just for the point of fact check here, when Hillary Clinton used the term super predator, if you actually go look at the statement she made, it was in 1996 that she said this. She didn't mention any race whatsoever. Okay, just so people understand. So because a lot of times when people retell the stories, they say, oh, she called Black people super predator. If you actually go read the actual statements, I'm going to try to pull it up here. She didn't mention race at all. Okay, because originally the term super predator was a term that was not indicative of race, but it became associated with African Americans, just so people understand this. All right. Let's go to here, politifact.com. Now, it's not a term I use. Thinking back to 94, I don't even remember the term in 94. All right. But just for the sake of accuracy here, I'm going to post this here. This is on politifact.com, this fact check. And it shows you the actual statements. It was like 2 paragraphs, I think it was, from 1996 from Hillary Clinton. It breaks this down. All right. Now, also, just for the sake of accuracy, and when she was running in 2016, she did come out when that information came out, she did apologize for using the term. Okay, I disagree with the term. I don't even use the N-word. If you people who know me, people who watch me, I don't even use the N-word. I don't call out people that, things like that. So I disagree with using the term super predator, but she did come out and apologize for it. One of the differences between her and Trump is Trump doesn't apologize for anything. When he's called, he don't apologize for nothing. Okay, so just so people understand. Let's see here. Where are we? Okay, let's post this right here for you. So you can read this in its entirety also. All right. What's up, Raheem? You all right? Okay, so we got that. Let's see. Let's go back here. One more. Okay. Okay. So, okay. So they were Hillary Clinton. Say this is mostly false. It was Hillary Clinton, then the first lady, who used the term predator to advocate for the '94 crime bill. That was in '96 that she said that in reference to the '94 crime bill. Biden did warn of quote unquote predators in a floor speech in support of his bill. However, okay, Biden did warn of quote unquote predators. All right, so you can read that as well. Let's look at talk about Trump and $750 in taxes. You can look at that. Trump support cutting. Does Trump support cutting police funding? Okay, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance, Biden said Tuesday night, reiterating his own opposition to defunding the police. Okay, because Biden is against defunding the police. There was a op-ed article for USA Today that Biden wrote back in, I think it was June. We talked about that here on the show. He talked about rooting out systemic racism in policing, things like that. But he said he was against defunding the police. We went through that whole thing. I talked about shrinking responsibility of the police and then reallocating resources, because there are approximately 18,500 police departments. They're of different sizes, 30,000 plus in New York City. I think in Detroit, we're about 2,000. Some small police departments have 6, 10, 15 officers. When we reduce the responsibility of the officers, reduce what they're responsible for, that automatically frees up money. Then you can reallocate resources for psychologists, reallocate resources for mental health, reallocate resources for job training, more money into things like education, et cetera, things that will deter crime, but you still have a police department that's adequately funded to do what it has to do. Okay. But if you reduce what they are responsible for and reallocate those resources, things like mental health. So if you have somebody who's homeless and they're acting irate, a lot of times somebody with a gun doesn't have to show up. They need mental health. They need a mental health professional. And we saw that here, especially in Detroit, because under former Governor John Engler, who served, I think he was governor for like 16 years. He was governor for 4 terms. That's when the state legislature put in term limits for a governor. He shut down a lot of mental health facilities in Michigan, and some of them were like in Detroit area. And what that did was that put a lot of African Americans who had mental illness out on the street. All right, which causes a whole nother problem. But a lot of times you have people who are mentally ill and they may be irate, they may curse, they scream like that, but they're not a threat to anybody except themselves. They don't need somebody showing up with a gun. They need a mental health professional to help them. Okay. All right. So they're referring to Trump. His budget, Biden said of Trump, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. Biden said Tuesday night, reiterating his opposition to defunding the police. This is mostly true, though Biden actually undercounts the proposed cuts. While Trump has opposed calls from some Democrats to reduce police funding in response to the death of George Floyd and other African Americans over the summer, the Trump administration's budget proposal does indeed call for big cuts for several police programs. Trump's budget, the Trump administration budget proposal does indeed call for big cuts for several police programs. In the Justice Department's budget plan, fiscal year 2021, the Trump administration requested $1.51 billion for over 50 programs funding state and local law enforcement. That number cuts about $515 million from previous fiscal years, in part by slashing budgets from a number of Obama-era programs, including initiatives that provided body cameras for police officers. Okay, go read this. So the annual federal budget submitted by the White House to Congress, the legislative branch of government, to approve. Annual federal budget is about $5 trillion, and it increases each year. All right. So this is what this is talking about. We'll post this link here. This was fact check. Does Trump support cutting police funding? Does Trump support cutting police funding? All right. Let me give you a couple more articles to read. Just stand by. Let me pull this up here. All right. This one here is Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. This breaks down, I think there's like 18 things that it deals with that was in the crime bill. This is like a fact sheet that gives you like an overview of it to read. I got the link to the actual crime bill. The actual crime bill is about 356 pages. This is a overview of it. Let me see here. Okay, where is... Just a second. Where are we broadcasting? Okay, here we go. This is from, what is it? ncjrs.gov. National, what is that? Information call. I forgot which agency this is. U.S. Department of Justice. Okay, to check that out. Then you can read this. I'm just giving you a few of these articles because I have a ton of them. There's another one here. Okay, I'll give you it's one of them. One I'm trying to find here. All right, I'll find it. Okay, let's continue. I want to do a couple more fact checks here. How's everybody doing? So I don't know what's going to happen at the next debate. I really don't. Be sure to listen to our Sunday night show. And we'll post, I'm going through editing the shows because we'll post, because I went through and broke down Biden's plan to empower Black America, the 22-page agenda. And I dealt with one segment each week. It's broken into 6 parts. So you can go back and watch that, read that in its entirety also. Then also be sure to read Donald Trump's anti-Black agenda as well. I mean, it's you can look at his past 3.5 years, but look at his entire policy platform. Okay. All right, let's look at this. Let's continue. Okay, so that dealt with Trump cutting police funding. Trump achieved by talks at denouncing white supremacy. In another heated exchange, Trump declined to denounce the far right and white supremacists and told the Proud Boys, a violent far right group, to quote stand back and stand by, end quote, whatever that means, stand back and stand by. Trump instead tries to pivot to Antifa being a more serious problem. Biden points out that the FBI has said that the far right is the biggest threat to the U.S. in terms of domestic violence. His FBI Director Christopher Wray said that earlier this month. He said that Antifa is an ideology, not a group. Antifa is an ideology, not a group. Let me see. I think I pulled up, I was looking for this article here from, there was one dealing with Chris Wray testifying in front of Congress. And that's from the Washington Post. Let me see this here. I thought I pulled that up. Hold on. Okay, which let's look at a couple more here. Okay, the ones so far news are better than over the Washington Post for a minute here and see what they've updated. The other article that I searching for from the Washington Post, this is the Obama-Trump economy charts. The Obama-Trump economy in 16 charts. So I'll give you. I'll give you. All right. Here. Some more articles here for you. Let me see. Hold on. What is this doing? There's one from Vox.com. Is this the one from Vox I was looking for? Let's see. There's one from Vox.com as well. Clinton back 1994 crime flaws, but did not create mass incarceration of the crime bill, of the 94 crime bill as well. So that's a good one to read also from Vox.com. Something that's, I think something important is also that sort of supported for a different reason. The reason why is because nationwide and all across the country, we're calling for something to be about crime in the community. So you African American bigots that supported because pressure is being put on them by their constituents to do something about crime. Pressure is being put on African American police chiefs to do something about crime. The crime bill went too far. There was bad things in it. There were good in it also, like I said earlier. But when is a bill, they don't look at the context and what led up to it. Then look at what happened afterwards as well. In administration, see was declining drug in the Obama administration, and the prison population for African Americans dropped to its lowest point. U.S. population dropped to its low point in 20 years in December 2015. The percent down to 34% also. That doesn't get talked either. All easily verifiable. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to read. Okay, so we'll post this also here. And so for some reason, this is freezing up on me. All right, so hey, look, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, on our Sunday night show. I'll look at some more fact checking. Well, they talked about Hunter Biden. We'll do this one quickly here since this is right in front of me. Fact check: Trump's attack on Hunter Biden for foreign business dealings. Trump and his allies have attacked the former vice president's son, Hunter Biden, for his foreign business dealings. On Tuesday, Trump echoed one of the biggest claims from the recent Senate GOP Homeland Security Committee's conflicts of interest investigation into Hunter Biden. Trump claimed on the debate stage that, quote, the mayor of Moscow gave your son $3.5 million claimed that Elena Baturina, Batrina, the late mayor of Moscow, wired $3.5 million to a firm associated with Hunter Biden. So Joe Biden still that Hunter Biden had no interest in that firm that received the money. So, quote, the claim that he was paid $3.5 million was false, end quote. Also on the debate stage, Joe Biden said the claim had been, quote unquote, totally discredited. The U.S. Senate GOP-led conflicts of interest report largely resurfaced outstanding allegations, specifically as to Hunter Biden's role on the board of a Ukrainian energy company, as well as what the committee called, quote, questionable financial transactions between Hunter Biden and his associates and foreign individuals, end quote. So the report came out from this Senate committee headed by Ron Johnson, like in the last couple of weeks. You probably didn't hear a whole lot about it because they really didn't find anything. They came to the conclusion that there was no evidence that Joe Biden's policies, what he did was influenced by Hunter Biden being on the board of Burisma. They found absolutely no evidence of that. When the New York Times had an article when this report came out, this was supposed to be what a lot of Republicans were waiting for. It came out as a dud. It came out as a dud they didn't find anything. Okay, so go research that. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. Largely focusing on those optics, the report does not say that Biden's work changed U.S. policy. Largely focusing on those optics, the report does not say that Hunter Biden's work changed U.S. policy. The Joe Biden campaign spokesman Andrew Bates slammed the report as an, quote, attack founded on a long disproven hardcore right-wing conspiracy theory, end quote, that Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin has now explicitly stated he is attempting to exploit to bail out Trump's re-election campaign. Ron Johnson is reaping basically a Russian disinformation campaign. This is basically what it is. And this is how Christopher Wray, if I remember correctly, FBI Director Christopher Wray explained it as well. He said you have certain Republicans that are repeating these talking points coming from a Russian disinformation campaign. All right. Okay, so check that out. All right. How's everybody doing? Who we have here? At Cassie. She should be able to. Okay, can y'all still hear me? Let me know. You should be able to. Okay, Connie, Monique, Rashida, Brian, Shirley, Don. Okay, how's it? All right, Linda. Can you all hear me okay? Should be able to hear me. So I'm monitoring this, so it sounds like I'm coming through clearly. It was choppy there for a minute. The screen was freezing up. One of the tabs was freezing up because I have about 50 tabs open right now. All right, let me look at, okay, let me give you this one here. This is Vox. Okay, audio is good now. Yeah, it was dragging for some reason. All right. Okay, audio good now. You're clear. Gino, James. All right. Everybody follow me here on the African History Network. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. Then also, if you want to donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. PayPal. Let's squeeze in a couple more fact checks because they're sending new ones through. They're updating this. Let's see here. Okay. Did Donald Trump lower drug prices? Now, keep in mind, Donald Trump's attorney general was in court, and the case will be taken up by the U.S. Supreme Court November 10th, 2020, the week after the presidential election, to repeal the entire Affordable Health Care Act and kick at least 20 million people off of health care. And it will also remove or repeal pre-existing conditions. Pre-existing conditions applies to people who don't even have the Affordable Health Care Act, meaning that a health insurance company cannot charge you more money or deny you health insurance because of pre-existing conditions. So even if you don't have the Affordable Health Care Act, you're still covered under pre-existing conditions. Also, the Affordable Health Care Act gave health care to 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care. And it lowered the uninsured rate for African Americans to its lowest point in history, down to 10%. Now there are more African Americans who don't have health insurance than when President Obama left office. And it's because the attack on the ACA. It's because of Trump. It's because you've had so many people that have lost jobs in the past 28 weeks or so because of COVID-19. Everybody should read this document. This is at whitehouse.gov. Okay. This is at whitehouse.gov. Because I hear a lot of people talking. I see a lot of people posting comments. I could tell some people don't read. This is called Progress of the African American Community under the Obama administration. Progress of the African American Community under the Obama administration. This is at whitehouse.gov. And this shows directly how President Obama's policies benefited the African American community. It's still up at whitehouse.gov. Whitehouse.gov is the official website of the White House. Trump has not taken it down. He probably doesn't know what's up there. It was up there during President Obama's second term, because that's when I found out about it and went and read it. If we had read this during the 2016 election, probably wouldn't have been a different result. When you hear me talk about principles of political self-defense, we unfortunately, many of us don't understand the concept of protecting gains that were made. How do you protect gains that were made if you're under the misconception that no gains were made? Because there's always people trying to take away from you what you have. So we have to understand political self-defense. We have to understand how to identify those official to us. We have to understand how to identify that. All right. So let's continue here. So we have that, and then do like one more. Okay, we'll try to squeeze one or two more quick ones here. Trump's anti. Okay, China. Hunter Biden. Okay, that Biden calls Trump the worst president ever. I think he's probably right about that. At least last 60 years or so, maybe last 100 years. Trump. I don't think Trump's worse than Andrew Jackson, but I think he's probably President Andrew Jackson and the Indian Removal Act of 1830. That kicked the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians and Black Indians off their land in southeastern United States, and the Trail of Tears, and they all go out west into Oklahoma. So I don't think he's worse than Andrew Jackson, but I think he's probably right up there. Andrew Jackson is his hero, by the way. Imagine that. Okay, let's see here. Just trying to see if we can squeeze in one more. Okay, let's try to load more posts.
Every day it's getting faster.
Every clip playing.
Just go ahead and ask. Love like yours will.
All right, just a second here. They got a clip trying to load up. All right. Okay, here. Okay, so they loaded. Okay. We got a couple more. Okay, shape of economic recovery. This is a good one. Shape of economic recovery. Now, Chris Wallace, who had the impossible task of trying to regulate this 2-year-old toddler. Chris Wallace said the pandemic has been faster than expected, but the two get about the shape of the economy. If the economy was charted on a graph, would it be a V shape where it goes down from where it was before and then Trump claims, or will it be a K shape where the fortunes of a few continue to increase while those in lower incomes and jobs more exposed to coronavirus risks continue to decline? Now, experts say that the recovery is a tale of two diverging recoveries. After soaring to Great Depression levels during pandemic lockdowns, unemployment has fallen to 8.4% in the most recent report. Now, some people stop looking for jobs also. You got to go to Bureau of Labor Statistics and read August 2020 jobs report, because some people dropped out because they stopped looking for work. Stock indexes are hitting historic highs. Mortgage rates are rock bottom, and sales of new homes have hit 13-year highs. But over 30 million Americans face the risk of eviction, and many temporary layoffs are not good times, but many temporary layoffs are turning into permanent job losses as the pandemic drags on. Without a widely available vaccine, large portions of the economy, such as travel, hotel, and restaurants, will not be able to fully recover. We just saw that Disney is laying off 28,000 people. Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, laying off 28,000 people. This is tied to the coronavirus economy. The V-shaped recovery is a mirage. Nick Mazing, M-A-Z-I-N-G, director of research at data writer Centeo, told NBC News. A permanent reduction in the size of several sectors in the economy, end quote. Because this is suspected that half these jobs, like half of these 30 million jobs, are not coming back. Good. All right, let's see here. Okay, so this is a I didn't believe Trump said this. Trump says his pandemic response was great. The U.S. leads in cases and deaths. In deaths nationwide, 1 million deaths worldwide. The U.S. is about 4 or 5% of the world population. The U.S. makes up 20% of the deaths in the world, 20% of the 1 million deaths. Trump boasted about his pandemic response. He said, "We've done." This is false, according to all available metrics. This is false, according to all available metrics. Struggling badly with the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. has more cases than any country, with more than 7 million cases, okay? And more deaths than any country, recently surpassing 200,000. The U.S. has an uncontrolled outbreak, reporting just shy of 37 new COVID-19 cases this past Monday. For comparison, far smaller countries like Italy, Germany, and Japan are reporting between a few hundred and 3,000 new cases. Okay, for comparison, far smaller countries like Italy, Germany, and Japan are reporting between a few hundred and 3,000 new cases. Other countries are struggling. They talk about India, Brazil. Okay. As of Tuesday, September 29th, the U.S. has the 5th highest number of deaths per 100,000 people in the world, according to Johns Hopkins. Okay, so they go through, break this stuff down. So he's just lying. No, the response has not been great. Still is not a national plan to reopen the economy, to make conditions safe for children to return to school. There's still not a let's see here. Okay. So I'm gonna give you this link again. This is from you have to have a subscription to read those Washington Post, New York Times. You have to pay a subscription or something like that to be able to do that. I felt like jumping through the TV and punching him in the throat myself. Yeah. Is that there going to be a lot of so a lot of kids at going to school at the kitchen table or dining room table because of coronavirus. But they'll probably talk about this in school. The teachers are probably they could. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if teachers told their children to watch this, like in social studies classes or something like that, American history, government class. Okay, so they could talk about it tomorrow. But that's going to be an interesting discussion in school. How this fool acted. Okay, fact check. How many people are there in the U.S. with pre-existing conditions? How many people are there in the U.S. with pre-existing conditions? So Trump and Biden came out the gate with conflicting statements over how many people in the U.S. have pre-existing conditions. Biden said 1 million people with pre-existing conditions, and that they would lose their health care coverage should the Affordable Care Act be eliminated. Trump insisted Biden's number was wrong. Studies on the topic show a range that would technically make both men correct. The Kaiser Family Foundation estimated in 2018 that at 53.8 million adults under at least 53.8 million adults had a pre-existing condition that would make them unable to buy health insurance. Another study, a healthcare consulting firm, Avalear, estimated that 102 million Americans had a pre-existing condition that would make them unable to buy health insurance. A 2017 study from the Department of Health and Human Services estimated that about 133 million people had a pre-existing condition that would make them unable to buy health insurance. Now, Health and Human Services, that's a government department. Director of Health and Human Services, that's Alex Azar. He reports to Donald Trump. This study came out in 2017 under the Trump administration. If it was after January 20th, that's inauguration day. 133 million people, according to a study from the Department of Health and Human Services, have pre-existing conditions. All right, so okay, some of this is nonsense. All right, so you can check out the rest of that. Okay, everybody, hey, follow us here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Turn on notifications. Follow me on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. IMHOTEP. Yeah, COVID will be COVID-19 will be a condition. And other thing dealing with COVID-19 is more evidence showing that even if you survive COVID-19, there's still long-lasting effects from it. Heart conditions, kidney conditions. You could have breathing problems. There's impairment. There are problems with all different types of things like that. Some people still have problems with their sense of taste and sense of smell, even after they have recovered from it. So there's a whole host of side effects that you can be afflicted with, even if you survive it, even if you overcome it. And some of those things you're going to need health care for to address. So this thing is deep. Okay. All right. So read the articles that I gave you. We're going to give you some more also. Read those articles here. This helps to really educate about these topics, things like that. Deal with a lot of this history, and read the articles that we have here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History. I'm the I I'm a racial host, researcher, writer, and historian. Listen to the African History Network show days 9 p.m. 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the African History Network fan page and YouTube. Follow me on Instagram at Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on Instagram, and AHN Show on Twitter, the AHN Show on Twitter. And we also broadcast on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit as well, Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of my DVD lectures are available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Digital articles that I've written, you can read there as well. And we have over 1,000 audio podcasts at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well. Okay. Who's the troll? Let me see what this dumbass troll is saying. Let me know who the troll. See, I've got trolls in different area codes. Let me know who the troll is. Somebody said you can't control a troll. Trolls, I find trolls very interesting. Your life is so pitiful that you have to come on here and bother us. Because we're not coming on your thread being trolling you, because we have better things to do. Who's the troll? Let me know. I want to see what this troll is saying. Let me see. Whoever the troll is, go ahead and say what you're saying so I can see it. Because I'll blast your ass right now. Who's the troll? Don't get laryngitis right now and arthritis. Oh, okay. You think they were talking about Trump? Oh, Trump is the troll? Okay. Well, tell Trump bring his ass on here then. I'll deal with him. All right, let's see here. Let's look in the comments. Got Maisha, conscious coach Kathleen. How you doing? Gino, Fion, Perez Values. Okay. Trump made a big ass out of himself. He did. Because this is going to be a lot of parents that are going to tell their children, don't you ever in your life act like that. Okay. He just lost like a whole lot of suburban women, especially college educated suburban women. He was already losing them, but he just lost a lot more. No, there was at least one African American federal judge. On Roland Martin's show, because Roland's a friend of mine. I used to guest host his nationally syndicated radio show. The Roland Martin show on radio. I used to guest host it a lot. But on his Roland Martin Unfiltered, his daily digital show, and we share that every day. Here's on Monday through Friday. Aired originally 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But a day or so ago, he played an African-American pastor who talked about the federal judges and said none of the federal judges that Trump has passed has gotten confirmed African-American. That's not true. I know of at least one African-American female. Now, I'm not saying this in defense of Trump. I'm just stating facts because she's from like the Detroit area. Okay. So I posted that in the thread when the pastor said that, and the pastor may not know this. I think the pastor meant well. He said 198 judges. It's actually 216. We posted the article here from Newsweek.com. It's actually is at the time of this article from September 18th, 2020, it was 216 federal judges. But let me see if I can find her name here. But yeah, it was at least one African American female who was confirmed. She was nominated by Trump. There's probably more than that. I think I don't want to say a number. I've heard a low number is single digits. Okay, Senate approves Trump's first black female judge nominee. DetroitNews.com, December 19th, 2019. Senate approves Trump's first black female judge nominee. Her name is U.S. Magistrate Judge Stephanie Dawkins Davis of Flint, Michigan. Yeah, Flint. So Flint is about 45. Flint, but about 45 minutes away from Detroit. Flint. Ypsilanti is 45. Flint's about 2 hours. I think about 2 hours. Flint, Michigan, where they had the water crisis. U.S. Magistrate Judge Stephanie Dawkins Davis of Flint, a former federal prosecutor for 18 years, who Trump appointed in March of 2019 to sit on the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan, was unanimously confirmed by voice vote. Stephanie Dawkins Davis earned a voice vote, which is unusual and may attest to the confidence the senators have in her abilities, said Carl Tobias, a law professor at the University of Richmond, who follows federal judicial appointments. By contrast, 11 of the 13 judicial appointees this week had roll calls in the Senate, Carl Tobias said. Let me scroll down here. U.S. Senators Debbie Stabenow, Democrat Lansing, and Senator Gary Peters, Democrat Bloomfield Township, applauded the Senate confirming Dawkins Davis. Because from what I've heard of her, she's a good judge. All right. I wasn't familiar with her before this came out, but from what I've heard about her, she was a good judge. Or is a good judge. Quote, we worked very hard to confirm Judge Davis because she is exceedingly qualified with an impressive background, end quote, said U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow, Republican from Michigan. She said in a statement, she is a magistrate judge, has served in both the civil and criminal divisions of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Detroit and has overseen community and law enforcement initiatives. She will be an excellent addition to the federal bench. All right. So read this article here, DetroitNews.com. Senate approves Trump's first black female judge nominee. Now, this is December 19th, 2019. He took the oath of office January 20th, 2017. Okay. So this doesn't discount all the other bad judges he's nominated and they very young, ultra-conservative white judges. Many of them don't want to say whether Roe versus Wade. Many of them don't want to say whether Brown versus Board of Education was correctly decided. Some of them don't want to say whether Roe versus Wade is settled case law, etc. The American Bar Association has come out and they've said that a number of these nominees are totally unqualified to be federal judges. All right. So this doesn't, I'm not trying to discount it all these other bad federal judges Trump has nominated and gotten approved, because I already talked about that. But what I do want to do is deal with facts and evidence here. So I don't want people to repeat that he didn't nominate or he didn't get any African-American female judges approved, because that's just factually not true. So I don't want you to repeat that and then somebody fact check you and then you caught off guard. All right. The overwhelming majority of them are white, however. Okay. So everybody understands. Overwhelming majority of them are white and very unqualified. Many of them. Okay. This is one of the biggest affirmative action programs I've ever seen. Okay. Let's continue here. Did I get the idea? Wilma asked, did I get the idea that Trump was activating the KKK white supremacists by saying stand by? That could be a code. That's possible. It's possible because, see, remember, Trump sent these armed militias and armed men to state capitals, like the state capitol here in Michigan. He sent them there with these liberate Michigan, liberate this state, liberate that state rallies. He and set them there. People protesting, open back up the state, open back up the state. They only did that in states that had Democratic governors, mind you, like state of Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Okay, so yeah, there could be a dog whistle there. Yeah, that could be a dog whistle, definitely. All right, I was wondering about that because I was watching it live, and I'm like, whoa, what did he just say? You know, if he said hootie hoo or something like that, then we know there's a dog whistle. What is a good website to check out the judges who are on this year's election ballot? You want to look at something local. You vote for judges locally. Okay, you vote for judges locally, 36th district. You vote for judges locally. So you want to look at something local. It may be, it could be like you may have a local African American law organization. You may have a lot of times your local news station, TV station, local news TV station, on their website, they'll talk about, they'll list the candidates for the different races, different cities, things like that. You can at least start there to find out who's running. Oftentimes, there are about 2,200 branches in LACP. A lot of times, different branches will have, now it's probably virtual, it's not in person. A lot of times they'll have the candidate forums, things like that is probably online now as opposed to person. So you may look at things like that. Okay. Who asked that question? That was Byron. That's the other part. A lot of these judges being appointed by Trump, but see, people have to understand. So Rashida asked this question, or made this statement. You may have come in. I don't know if you saw it from the beginning. The judges are there. It said they're appointees, but they're nominated. In general, they're nominated. Okay, for federal judges, this is the lifetime appointment. They're nominated by the president, but they have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. And the entire U.S. Senate, the 100 members, vote on the candidate, on the nominee. All right. So this is why in the beginning we dealt with how Senator Moscow Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, December 2019, he was interviewed by Sean Hannity on Fox News, and he bragged about blocking President Obama's nominees to the federal bench in the last 2 years. Okay, because Republicans took back control of the U.S. Senate in that November 2014 midterm election, and then they blocked. So on the debate tonight, presidential debate, Christopher Wallace talked about how there were 128 vacancies. Somebody said there were 128 vacancies on the federal bench when Trump came into office. Is because those President Obama's nominations were being blocked, Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate. So a lot of people don't understand why Republicans work so hard to control the Senate. This is why. They'll let the House of Representatives go. They want to control the U.S. Senate at all costs. And then if a Republican becomes president, then if Republicans have control of the Senate, they can just run through all these unqualified ultra-conservative judges, not Confederate judges, unqualified ultra-conservative judges, and get them confirmed in the Senate, and Democrats can have the House of Representatives. That's why, and I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I study law, politics, and history. Okay, that's why Democrats have to take back control of the Senate to block that. Better judges on the federal bench and also U.S. Supreme Court. This is this is what happens. People don't read the U.S. Constitution, don't understand the Constitution. All this stuff comes from the Constitution. Okay, all this Electoral College, Article 1 gives powers to Congress. Article 2 gives powers to the executive branch. You had the Department of Justice created. That goes back to about 1789. In the Constitution, all these things come from the Constitution. The 10th Amendment gives states rights. So when people talk about policing, and this is what a lot of people, when you talk about the crime bill, like what a lot of people don't understand, crime bill was federal law, not state law. The majority of control over policing is at the state and local level because of the 10th Amendment. This is why the majority of people are in majority of people who are in prisons are not in federal prisons. They're in state prisons under state control. Because people don't have law. All right. So look, we have to get out of here. Hey, remember the African History Network? We focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. $, the AHN, $, the AHN show through Cash App. You can donate 5, 20, 25, whatever it is. And then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, etc. Finance our Sunday night show. If you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. Okay, or at our website. And also you can email me through as well. Okay, this is a different type of conversation. I study different type of information than other people. So problems or conversation. You don't have to believe. I probably usually at my presentations I say what I say may go outside the circumference of some people's awareness. Just because you never heard it before, disagree with it, or don't like it, does not mean it's not true. Just means you have to do some research to understand what I'm talking about. All right. So people have to understand this. All right. You go to all these articles that I give you, go research this. Then come back and talk to me. Okay, I understand we need to educate ourselves, but there's an immense amount of information. And when people are just trying to work to live, we don't have time to research. Yeah, that's why you're here. And I help put this in synopsis for you and give you the articles you can read as you least. I've been studying 28 years. Okay. So I understand. I didn't just accumulate this knowledge like in 2020. I've been studying 28 years. But that's why the African History Network is so important, because we consolidate all that information to you and give you those sources for you to go research this information. So create tabs in your browser, Firefox, Google, because I have thousands of articles bookmarked just in Firefox. I have thousands of articles bookmarked. I mean, I've got just here on my laptop, I have 2 stacks of articles here. This is what we do. I got 2 stacks of articles here, 1 stack here, 1 stack of articles here. We've got stacks over here where you can't see off camera. I've got tons of file folders full of articles, full of research. So people who like watch my show, watch my broadcast, you know the type of research I do. Okay, there's 1 stack there. There's another stack of articles. So we got this here. There's another stack of articles here. 5 stacks of books next to me. This type of research I do. Mueller report from the Washington Post. We got U.S. Constitution. We got Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. Right? We got everything from Malcolm X, Dr. King, to Golden Age of the Moor, and this book right here by Professor Charles E. Cobb Jr. This nonviolent stuff will get you killed, how guns made the civil rights movement possible. Okay, so go into our archives, watch some of the interviews I've done, watch some of our broadcasts. This is some different type of information. Okay, even now, this is one of my friends here, Dr. David, well, not him, but the book is by Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First American African Evidence, which deals with the African presence in this country called the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. Okay, I've interviewed them 13, 14 times. All that stuff is documented. All that stuff is archived. Okay, so this is the type of information that I read and teach about. Okay, remember at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. And I deal with that when I deal with 6 principles of political self-defense. This is part of my PowerPoint presentation, the lecture I do. 6 principles of political self-defense. One, not in particular order, but we have to, one, stop financing our own commission, because sometimes when we, for instance, with our 401k plans, we are investing, okay? Invest out of that and redirect those funds. 2, when we look at candidates, president, U.S. Senate, what have you, city council, look for candidates whose policies best match up our issues, who best match up with our issues. But we have to understand what issues are to understand which position to take and what policies to push. 3, when we look at candidates, we have to find a candidate who can create an environment for us to advance our agenda the farthest and get most accomplished. And then 4, look for a candidate who can be pushed the farthest, to get the most accomplished. So you may agree on 5 policies out of 10, but on 3 or 4 more, you can push them in the right direction. Okay. A lot of people talk about a black agenda. We want a black agenda, we want a black agenda. One, a black agenda is not what candidates to us. That's what we present to the candidates. One, that comes out of self-determination. Okay. And understanding our history, understanding the policy. So a lot of people operate off these damn hashtags and all this stuff like that, right? There's a bunch of rhetoric. But the most important candidate to identify is not the candidate with the black agenda. The most important candidate or candidates to identify are the ones with the anti-black agenda, because an anti-black agenda is even worse than not having a black agenda. And the ones with an anti-black agenda stop at all costs. So a lot of times when people talk about a black agenda, they're not doing a systems analysis. The first thing and the most critical is to identify the ones with a black agenda, identify ones with an anti-black agenda, and make sure they don't get in the office, period. Because those are the ones who will do the most. It's one thing to be indifferent to your condition or have that are not trying to hurt you. Is another thing that actually have policies that are targeting you and trying to hurt you. This is understanding political self-defense. Next, we have to understand, this is not in particular order. Understand that we have to leverage to enforce our politics, leverage our economics to enforce our politics. Okay. One example of that is divesting from privatized prisons. June 2017, New York Daily News, I think it was, had this article. They talked about how in the city of New York City employees who work for the city government divested $48 million from pension fund dollars that were invested in 3 privatized prisons. They did the research and they found out that some of their pension fund dollars were invested in privatized prisons. So it was one thing to say we're against privatized prisons. It's another thing to research where are your pension fund dollars invested? Because a lot of times they're invested in privatized prisons or in gun manufacturers. And a lot of times people don't know this. So we're financing our own dehumanization. Okay? But we don't have to do that. All right. So leverage our economics to enforce our politics. And 6, we have to have candidates who will protect the gains that we made, protect the policies in place benefiting us, because there's always somebody trying to take away what you have. Those are the ones with the anti-Black agenda, right? So we have to. Oftentimes we'll vote from election to election, but we don't draw a connection between what took place the previous 2 years, previous 4 years, what policies were put in place that benefited us, so we understand what has to be protected in the next election. Oftentimes when we vote from election to election, there's no connection between the past 2 years, past 4 years, past 6 years, past 10 years. Okay, it's just voting. Just a second. Okay, so a lot of times there's no connection between the voting from the last 2 years, last 4 years, last 6 years, last 8 years, last 10 years, what's been accomplished, which policies are in place that are beneficial to us, may not be perfect, but beneficial to us, that need to be protected, that are in jeopardy, like the Affordable Health Care Act. Okay? So when Donald Trump asked African Americans in 2016, what the hell do you have to lose? The correct was everything. All right. So that's enough for tonight. That's enough for today. Okay, so hey, got to focus on educating, empowering, inspiring people of African descent throughout the sport and around the world, because right now it's correction behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.